Hello, hello everyone, and welcome back to another day of some heroic NGS. Today we're going to be watching the match between Rodney's Imaginary Friends and Inting for Globes. Now, I'm going to have to do this intro very quickly, as it does seem like both teams are pretty much ready to go. Draft should be underway any moment now. But going through the bans, we do have Rodney's Imaginary Friends banning out Dragonshire and Volsky Foundry, Inting for Globes banning Brax's Holdout and Infernal Shrines. And now for the moment you've been waiting for, the very first map is Garden of Terror. So we will see Inting for Globes actually going to be Team 1 this time, so I probably should swap them out. Boom. Done. And with that, we're going to have Inting for Globes being on the blue side and Rodney's Imaginary Friends. They're going to be playing over towards the red side. So now, if we look over at the current standings, we do see that Inting for Globes is pretty far and above the #1 team in the league currently, with 35 points, 7 dominations, and overall 19-4 in terms of their maps played. Whereas Rodney's Imaginary Friends, though they did get their first win last night, they are still only at 11 points, with 2 dominations, 6 games won, and 13 games lost. So if you look at it just throughout the rankings, then this is going to be a pretty hard game to be won for Rodney's Imaginary Friends, but we've seen them play pretty well last night. We know they are capable of a lot. So we're not going to count them out quite yet. As there seems to be a little bit of a delay. Anything specific, just one side is ready to start, the other side is not ready to go. So I guess I'll just kind of talk about what I know about these teams. And to be completely honest, it's not a ton. Rodney's Imaginary Friends was my first live cast, as you saw last night. And today we're going to be seeing how they fare against the #1 team. As we do see that all sides are now ready. So now we're just waiting on the captain to start the game. And in we go into the draft. So red team will have the first ban. That will be Rodney's Imaginary Friends. And Garden of Terror, it is a pretty big map. There's a lot of objectives in terms of little shrines that they need to grab. They need to cap it, kind of like Cursed Hollow. So we may or may not see more, how do you call them? More global heroes being picked. Sorry, one second. I forgot to turn off my Steam. Just to prevent that from popping up mid-game. I apologize for that. So I could see a lot more globals coming out. We have seen C10 played the Falstad last night. Maybe that'll be something they'll pick up once again, as we are starting to see our first bans come out. So we have the Maiev ban coming out from Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Always a solid pick, especially the further up you go in terms of rank. Maiev becomes much, much, much more terrifying to play into. Very difficult to pull off, but in the hands of an expert, can cause a lot of issues for the team. And then on the side of Inting for Globes, we do see that they are taking away the Sylvanas. Sylvanas, very typical ban. Just overall good DPS, black arrows, very strong ability. Is able to get a lot of damage done onto objectives, onto forts, get the lanes pushed out. Just very good at catching and shoving out waves. What does surprise me a little bit is we do see the Lucio ban coming out from the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Now, and I do apologize, but I will be talking more about Rodney's Imaginary Friends today, simply because that is the team that I have seen play before, so I do know more about them. And Dr. Insho plays a fantastic Lucio. He had it banned away in the first game, where they did end up losing. But in games 2 and 3, Dr. Insho got the Lucio and got them their wins, which once again was their first series win. So I am a little bit surprised to see them ban it away themselves when they did have that first pick. We do see the Joanna banned out for the side of Inting for Globes, and then Blaze will be the first pick from Rodney's Imaginary Friends. We saw them play Blaze last night as well, but I'll be completely honest, I do not recognize Asmo Chad, so I'm wondering if this is a different player lineup compared to last night, or if I'm just being like really mean right now and just forgot Asmo Chad, but I don't think so. I'm usually bad with names, but I do remember-ish seeing them before. But either way, that's most likely going to be Blaze out in the offlane. And as we are looking towards the side of Inning for Globes, they pick up a Nubarak and Brightwing. A pretty standard tank healer combo. Once again, talking about those globals, Brightwing does bring a lot of that. We'll be able to move across the map whenever needed, and can help a lot in the offlane. If there is a duel going on and it's close, the Brightwing will be able to be that difference maker. We do see the Greymane and the Diablo both picked up for the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Greymane very good at executing and also damaging max health. Just overall, very strong hero, able to deal a lot of damage, solid range DPS. And the Diablo, again, we saw Sparklark play the Diablo last night. They did end up falling in that game number 1 where they did pick the Diablo. But the Diablo... Oh, no, sorry. Game number 1 was the Stitches. The Diablo game they did win with the Flame Breath, being able to pump out ridiculous amounts of damage. And with Greymane taken out, that's probably one of the 2 biggest max HP killers in terms of the range DPS role. Though we do have to see if they pick up something like Melthiel or Tychus, which was going to be my other option for the side of Inting for Globes. And Dahaka picked up again, so really big global pressure coming out from Inting for Globes in terms of team composition. Both Brightwing and Dahaka are able to move around the map very quickly. Brightwing able to dash onto any player on the map, or any allied player, and then Dahaka is able to go into any brush. So, looking at the team composition so far with the Rhaegar and the Vala, I'm actually surprised Vala goes this far down to the draft. There is a little bit of caster bias here. Vala is my most played hero, by far my most favorite. She is a ton of fun to pilot. But at the same time, I do think she is incredibly powerful. And Rhaegar, very good team fighting hero as well. As we see the Falstad getting picked up from the side of Inting for Globes. So that's 3 globals on the side of Inting for Globes. And to be completely honest, I think they're going to be focusing on the macro. They're going to be hard to play against, because they would just simply be able to control the map state. They'll be able to control where the waves go. And as long as they're able to keep just the objectives falling, just all the waves shoved in, they will slowly build up an XP lead, and they will be able to win just through that. During the teamfights themselves, however, if the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends is able to force a fight, they should be able to get a decent amount of damage done. I see both sides so far. See from Rodney's Imaginary Friends, they are grouping all towards the mid lane. But Fuzz cheating towards bot side. And one thing you can do with an Uberak when you first start is you can potentially take out this cannon tower right here. Just walk down, start casting abilities, and you have the little scarabs coming in. So I'm actually going to follow them, because it does seem like that's the play. They have their 2 globals going towards their mid and top side. And I'm assuming that's a strategy. They will catch if a fight breaks out, 5v5 bottom. They will be able to teleport in. And yeah, we do see the pings coming out, jumping right onto the cannon tower. And the scarabs are tanking it as much as possible, as they do finish the first one. And we see Sparklark, Dr. Intro, they are all here. And very good burrow to get that unstoppable, as Sparklark's charge doesn't end up amounting to anything. No stun will be coming out there. The one advantage they do have, if they are able to trade here, they have push. I should mention the one advantage Rodney's Imaginary Friends has, is they do have push coming out from top side. We do see Sonar Fungus taken down very low, not able to be finished off. Very clutch heal coming out from Dr. Insho. as we do see Sekatora coming in on the right wing with that phase shift. Massive heal and is able to, well, pretty much negate all the damage done on the backside. As we do see some camps are starting to be picked up. The siege camp is being taken by Juan Pablo. And C10 is taking the bruiser camp on the top side. So while they did have all of those advantages in terms of globals, they are a little bit later to get started onto these objectives. Let's see Storm Brandon struggling a little bit to kill these bruisers. Gonna have to tap to maintain the HP, as both the siege camp and the bruiser camp up top have been finished. And the siege camp is now getting started by Dr. Intro and C10. C10 a little bit low, but should have no problem finishing off the siege camp, as with proper maneuvering, you won't take any damage at all. And looks like they're going to be hard pressuring for the second cannon tower, as we do see a fight breaking out top. Going down into the stasis is not able to throw them backwards. And in the meanwhile, Brandon gets a solo kill in mid lane against C10. So 1 for 0 going over to the side of Inting for Globes, and just a very clean, very orchestrated and calculated push coming out from the side of Inting for Globes. Azimuth Chad is going to try clearing this out as fast as possible, but I don't think you'll be able to clear it out in time. The fort is going to be going down here shortly, and very possible Azimuth Chad goes down after it, but Buzz, low on mana, decides they do not want to fight for this. A Sparkler coming in from the side. Buzz able to get that Impale, but not a lot of mana. I don't think they even are able to burrow, so that will be 1 kill going back over. But in the meanwhile, those globals coming out again. Brandon and Concept are able to start taking out the walls on the top side. Without the Anubarak, they will have to tank it a little bit, but that's still a lot of damage coming in kind of for free, as the C10 will start taking the siege camp over towards bot side. Snarfungus and Dr. Intro will come to defend. They will lose 1 cannon tower, but the gate and the second cannon tower will be alive for now. The objective is being capped by Juan Pablo, so the first seed will go over to the side of Inting for Globes. As you do see an invade coming over the top side. Sparklark jumping in. Does not go for Brandon, goes for Concept, who is able to just go into stasis. Phase shift did get cancelled. Dr. Incho kind of in the middle of all of them, trying to run away. Asmochad comes in, is able to get the jet propulsion to save Dr. Incho. But at the end of the day, no one traded back and forth. Siege camp was still secured by Inting for Globes. A little bit of damage done under the cannon tower in the mid lane by C10. And we are back to where we were. Sekatora is shoving out the bot side, but Asmochad, of course, will be able to shove out faster. A little bit of fighting over top as the flight comes in by Brandon. They get the stun onto Fuzz. Fuzz taking a lot of damage. Hungering Arrow is being thrown around. Brandon with the Hammerang as well. And once again, we do see that it is the frequent flyer build once again, as Brandon gets hooked once again. Phase shift to get the heal, and the burrow onto the Grey Mane, and C10 will be killed once again. 2 kills over for the side of Inting for Globes. They're now trying to push onto this top fort, and we see Juan Pablo is clearing out the seed. So it does seem like they will be able to pressure this and get a 2-0 seed advantage very early. Juan Pablo finishes the channel. Concept, once again, able to use those globals to get down there and clear the wave. As suspected, they are just kind of running around the map. Brandon gets a little bit caught though. Burrow comes in a little bit late, but is able to just tail shift away. Phase shift on top. Fuzz taking a lot of DPS, but they decide better of it. Anubarak, very difficult to kill this early on in the game, especially when you don't have that strong burst. Anubarak is able to get that armor, that mage armor, and overall prevent a lot of the damage that normally they would take. The Brandon and Juan Pablo clearing out their siege camp, and they do have their level 10s. They do have their ultimate abilities. Buzz hiding in the bush, watching C10, and now they're going in. Concept comes in through the bush as well. As Dr. Insho gets killed, C10 gets cocooned, and most likely will get finished off shortly after. The polymorph gust into the wall, and another 2-0 for the side of Inting for Globes. And this game seems very rough for the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. The global composition really showing up for Inting for Globes. They are running Rodney's Imaginary Friends around the map. And unfortunately, I don't think there's too much they'll be able to do about it for a little while. They do need to try and get their level 10s. Hope for some kind of strong team fight. They do get the Impale onto Snarfungus, but Snarfungus is still behind the gate and the wall. They should be safe there. As we do see the Commander Odin coming out from Juan Pablo just to help with the siege. And they're not stopping on the wall, as we do see the Diablo stun coming in. Good chain CC onto Brandon, got the second stun coming in. And they do manage to finish off. Sparklark, very low, is able to survive. 90 HP. Juan Pablo runs in, but Juan Pablo might have gone a little bit too far, and the Tychus gets taken down as well. Concept throwing into the stasis, but Jet Propulsion slightly mistimed. Concept still being found. I guess a Tongue Clash, but does not seem like they'll be able to continue running away. And that's the kind of fight that Rodney's Imaginary Friends needed. Not only do they get the fight win, Concept very politely pulls them right towards the objective. So they are able to get that seed. As they do also start looking towards that bruiser camp, looking to steal it. There's still a lot of time before the enemy respawns. However, Psychotora and Storm Brandon are going to be utilizing flight and phase shift in order to clear out that top fort. And Fuzz is also going to be trying to steal the bruiser camp themselves. However, this bot side fort will go down for the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Now, in terms of overall map state, it is still in favor of Inting for Globes, but the XP lead they had has shrunk a lot. What was once about a level and a half, a 2-level lead, is now pretty much down to just 1 level. It looks a little bit more than that, but there is a pretty large wave for Asmochad to catch in the meanwhile. And granted, right now they're on a little bit of a power spike with level 13s, and I suspect that Rodney's Imaginary Friends will choose to not even contest this next objective, this next seed. They will just try and set up, try and get the level 13s so that they are on even talents before they start fighting against the Terrors of the Garden. Hence why the map was called this. That's what I'll be calling them from now on. I'm sure everyone will love that. They are starting to group top, and they did hit 13, but it looks like this time Inting for Globes decides to go with a different approach. They're going to be shoving in the waves, and they decided not to contest for the seed at all. They're going to be pushing for the mid keep. Asmochad already hearthed backwards to be able to be here in time. Gonna try clearing it out, damaging Storm Brandon. Burrow on top of Asmochad. A little bit surprised about that. That's like a lot of DPS going through onto Fuzz, and Fuzz getting hit. One more shot, and Fuzz does get picked off, as we do see a little bit of a battle going on for the seed, and C10 is able to kill Asmo. And we turn back just in time to watch another one fight for Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Storm Brandon tries to prevent it, but doesn't get there in time and won't be able to kill C10 either. Psychotora walks in, is just a Brightwing, not going to be able to provide too much damage on a C10, and another very, very good map movement coming out from Rodney's Imaginary Friends. They're starting to catch up. They're able to take this mid lane wall, and I don't see them stopping. They're going to take this mid fort and even out the map state. Though it looks like they do have enough wave clear, so I go a little bit ahead of myself there. I get excited too. And with that, they were able to pretty much even out every lane except mid lane. The keep is still up for Rodney's Imaginary Friends in the mid, so they're not going to have too hard of a push. And frankly, if you're going to have uneven lanes, mid lane is the best one to have uneven, as it is the closest to every other lane. And with that less travel time, especially when you don't have globals, it is a little bit of an advantage. Asmochad coming in. They're going to be contesting this camp. Juan Pablo jumps in, but Psychotora is also jumping in. Is going to have to use that that blink heal to be able to get out. They are able to keep Juan Pablo alive, but they did have to use quite a bit of cooldowns in order to make that happen. As we do see right now, Asmochad and Rodney's Imaginary Friends, they are trying to grab this seed, but they are a little bit concerned as they are not level 16. We do have a very short talent advantage coming out from the side of Inting for Globes. And they just hit level 16 talents now, so they aren't even talents. C10 does get protected, and the Diablo is able to get such a big stun. Cocooned up, so isn't able to follow on it too much. Polymorph comes out, and as does the bunker, and in the end, no one falls. But they do come in, they get the pressure towards mid lane, and they will be able to finish off the mid lane keep now on the side of Storm. So the fight does continue. As we chat, Jet Propulsion's in. They do have quite a bit of stuns. Does not land from the side from Snarfungus. They're trying to keep this fight going as much as possible. And I do have to give credit to Inting for Globes. They know their composition. They know how it's played. And they're playing it well. They're slowly but surely chipping away at all the objectives. They know that in a straight fight, they're at a disadvantage. As we do see all of the Garden Terrors coming out. This bot side one is going to be cleared out very quickly, as Sparklark is coming in for a sneaky gank. Comes in, is able to get the attack onto Seth Cora, but Blink Heal will be able to get them away to safety in time. Cocoon thrown onto C10, but they will just quickly clear him out, as Garden Terror does come in through the mid lane, and this time I feel like I can confidently say they will grab this fort. They're still at a disadvantage in terms of map state for mid, as their keep is destroyed. But being able to get these terrors, they were able to push away a lot of the pressure. They were able to get their waves out, even if they don't get too much in terms of towers and walls and all that. They were able to alleviate pressure from their side of the map. And their terror is still at around half HP in the top side. Probably won't get too much done, if anything, as they are grouping together on the side of Ending for Globes to just clear it out quickly. And yeah, won't even be able to get a single hit off onto the wall. As we do see Rodney's Imaginary Friends, they're coming down. Gonna attempt to steal this Bruiser camp. It does seem like Ending for Globes is aware this is happening, but they decide not to contest. Queen Nightshade sending a message in all chat. That's pretty weird considering it's an AI, but Blizzard was ahead of its time. As they are staying with this wave, with this Bruiser camp to push bot side. Sparklark tries to use the charge, but is not able to collect Fuzz using that burrow to get the cleanse. And they're not going to continue past the wall. We do see the Bruiser camp was taken over by Brandon in the top side. Asmochad will be here to try and clear it out, so not going to be a lot of pressure going over to the actual wall itself. There is also the siege camp pushing in. You see Sparklarks and Fungus. They were trying to catch onto Brandon, but is able to just use flight to get away to safety before the team collapsed. So another seed spawning in 30 seconds. Current map state, once again, Inting for Globes is able to shove it out. Having all those globals on their team does make the process a lot easier. You're watching Fuzz see if they go for a play. Does get the burrow into the Impale, but Bunker immediately comes out. As which had probably assumed there's going to be a lot more coming out. So very good bait to be able to get that Bunker out before the fight started. And I'd be very surprised if Rodney's Imaginary Friends is able to come clear this in time, as Juan Pablo will cap the objective and send out their own Garden Terrors. Fuzz already gripped onto the wall, is able to burrow away to safety. Still took a decent amount of damage, less than half mana, also very important to pay attention for the side of Anubrak. Anubrak is pretty mana heavy. But it seems that with the terrors, they will be able to just clear out the top keep. And as soon as they realize they're not defending the top keep, they leave. The Apocalypse dumps come out, and the stun does get landed under Brandon. And they are behind on talents. This is level 20 to level 19. This was their push. Stasis comes out perfectly in time, so the concept does not end up getting caught. Mid lane Garden Terror already gone. Top lane one will follow shortly. The terrors themselves aren't very tanky, so they are easy to clear out if you're in the area already. However, we do see that they are going to continue shoving in with this bot lane terror, and the Commander Odin pop by Juan Pablo. We do see that the Diablo heroic talent does go for the quick teleport. Concept taking a lot of damage from Snarfungus. And In fact, we'll get back to the other fight soon after, but yeah, Concept gets picked off. And we see now Juan Pablo on that Commander Odin gets cleared out as well. They're going to try pushing. Sai Katora does have one charge of the Blink heal, and there it will be used, and that'll be able to get them out towards safety. And it does look like Rodney's Imaginary Friends, I think they might even be trying to go for the win here. And I think they have to. Right now, if we quickly look away, we see that there's wave shoving in mid, wave shoving in top. But they have 2 kills for 30 seconds. The Gus does come out to save them, as Fuzz was in a very, very dangerous situation. They are working, trying to clear out this bottom keep. And if they do get this bottom keep, even if they're not able to end, and I think with the way the situation is going, they will not be able to. They will probably just try to get away as soon as they grab it. Though we are now seeing that actually Inting for Globes wants to fight here. Apocalypse does come out. 2-person stun. As we see, the Brightwing is killed. That is exactly who you want to pick off. If you can pick off the enemy healer, the fight gets a lot easier. Hammering coming in to slow them down, but the Anub'arak gets picked as well. And all of a sudden, there's another 4-on-3 in the bot side. We do see that the Blaze is currently mid lane, but is running over to the team as fast as possible. Storm Brandon coming in from behind, gust up in 5 seconds. Concept trying to keep them delayed, and the Commander Odin, Juan Pablo, utilizing the ultimate just to clear out the waves. Because they know right now they just need a delay for their teammates to be back up. Concept very low, and then a perfect gust into the tower and into the keep. But Bunker coming out for safety. Sparklark is able to throw Juan Pablo into their team, and that's a 3rd member down. And this might be it. This might be the end of game number 1. If we're talking about just scores, this may have been one of the biggest upsets in the Heroic League so far, as map number 1 does go to Rodney's Imaginary Friends. I'll be honest, that was not an ending to the game that I expected. And I have to give credit where credit's due. Both team comps played exactly like how their team comps were built. We saw that the side of Inting for Globes, they were going for the global plays. They were trying to attack where Rodney's Imaginary Friends were not. And being able to do that really gave them a huge advantage. They were able to pressure in a lot of the waves. They got the forts first, all 3 down before a single one of their own forts was taken. But Rodney's Imaginary Friends, they did have that team fight composition, and they were able to get those team fight victories, especially in the end when it really counted. The one pick they had on their own keep, I wish we had replays. Maybe I'll get that set up someday. We'll see. Getting that pick when they were down the heroic talent at their own keep, that was the play that ended up shifting the game in their favor. After that, they were able to pressure out towards bot side, get another 2-3 kills there, push in with that, get another 2-3 picks there, and just slowly but surely they were able to strangle out Inting for Globes. Now we're going to go to a short little break, and when we're back, we'll be there for game number 2. Don't go anywhere. So as you've all heard, it is the Battlefields of Eternity as our next map coming in right now. So we have seen game number 1 just end, and it will be interesting to see if the drafts are going to be super different. I can tell you right now the drafts are going to be very different from the size of inting for globes, as global presence doesn't really do as much on Battlefields of Eternity as it does on a larger map like Gardens of Terror. So we do see the first ban coming out. The Vala will be banned out. As we saw, Snarfungus piloted it very well, and Vala super overpowered for Battlefield of Eternity. Being able to race as fast as possible to killing those immortals is probably the biggest thing in terms of drafting. And there's really two things you can do for these drafts. You can either draft to race, to being able to kill your immortal faster, or you can draft to fight, so that you just clear out the enemy team, and then you can start killing your immortal shortly after that at a leisurely pace. We did see yesterday Rodney's imaginary friends did play Battlefield of Eternity, and they went for the fighting route. They wanted to fight as much as possible, and they were able to get a lot of really good fights in, and in fact, were able to take this win off of the Niños team. We do see the first ban was actually missed on the side of Rodney's imaginary friends, but their second ban was the Hanzo. Once again, just a standard DPS, able to get a lot of poke damage, easy to demount, and Dragon's Arrow, very powerful ultimate, so just a very strong ranged assassin to get rid of. And we do see the Diablo this time will be picked up for inting for globes. So it will be interesting to see Diablo on the other team this time around. And also, I have not yet mentioned, but they did in fact ban the Blaze. And the Blaze, once again, was piloted really well by Asmochad, and was able to win the offlane, was able to keep the waves pushed in. A little bit of an unsung hero from last game, but very good jet propulsions. A lot of very clutch bunkers as well. As you have the Greymane and the Joanna, picked up by Rodney's imaginary friends. Greymane good at racing, Joanna really solid at peeling. And if they are going for a race composition on the side of Rodney's imaginary friends, Joe Greymane is a very strong opener. And Li Ming, Yrel picked up for inting for globes. Now Yrel's a hero I haven't seen in a while, considering most of my games are a little bit of lower elo when I play Storm League. But Yrel, very solid offlaner, very tanky. And Li Ming, very strong at racing. She does gain more damage based on how far away she attacks, and the immortals don't move, so it's very easy to hit, very easy to land. We do see the Brightwing band coming out from the side of Rodney's imaginary friends. Even without the global presence, Brightwing is very strong, able to give that magical shield, able to, with a level 20 heroic talent, able to make people invisible, and just overall giving a lot of defensive and very strong passive healing. And Samuro banned away from Rodney's imaginary friends. I haven't seen any Samuro picks yet. I don't know who plays it on the side of Rodney's, but I imagine these teams know each other a lot better than I know them, so solid ban. Very interesting pick away. I suspect also just kind of really good at being able to fight, very good at being able to slow down the Li Ming, as she does still have to land skill shots even if it is on a stationary target. So if you get in the way, it's linear, they are blockable. As Cassia and Rhaegar picked up from Rodney's. And I really like Cassia here. I think Greymane is good at racing, and Cassia is very good at fighting. So regardless of how they decide to go through with this, they will be able to get a lot of good value out of this. And Rhaegar, once again, just very strong standard healer. And Lunara, Deckard, Kane, and Hogger picked up in very quick succession. Lunara, not good at racing at all, to be completely honest. She kind of relies on poison damage, so her damage isn't instant as it is on all the others. So Lunara is probably the answer to the Cassia here in terms of just being a fighting hero. And Deckard Cain able to put people to sleep, very strong. for peeling. And Hogger, as we always talk about, just very solid offlane hero. Not much to say about that. As we do go into game number 2. But before we go, please take a look at this message. As we do get into game number 2, we are seeing both sides kind of mirroring each other, though Brandon is walking through the mid side. But 4 people on the side of Rodney's imaginary friends going over to the bot side. Their standard offlaner Asmochad going into the offlane. Gonna go up against Concept. We did see a little bit of an interesting play last game, where Rodney's imaginary friends did send extra people over to the offlane to try and get that pick. Whether they do that or not this game, we will have to wait and see. They do have a little wisp coming out to get the vision, and we do see Brandon trying to get in from behind Concept. Gonna check that brush. We'll find Asmochad, but Brandon reveals themselves, hitting up onto that tower a little bit. But Asmochad sees both of them. It's just going to play it safe. Not too much for them to do there. As Rodney's imaginary friends is able to utilize the 4-on-3 advantage in the bot lane to get the push going in. Lightning Furies being tossed onto the towers. Fuzz taking a decent bit of damage. The little potions coming out from Psychotora definitely helping, but are also not enough. The Concept taking a lot of damage. Hog Wild coming out as Brandon on the Lunara decides, you know what? I'm not getting much of an advantage top. I can, however, help bottom. Blind coming out. A little bit of just harass back and forth. Nothing too crazy happening quite yet. As we do see the siege camps have spawned. And that's usually what the first thing they contest. Snarfungus does get collected and rooted by the Deckard Cain. Not enough damage to finish off the kill, but a lot of harassment coming out from their side. Juan Pablo does a little bit of a risky blink, but is able to safely do it. Throwing out the orbs and the magic missiles to get that push. Fuzz able to pull Snarfungus back into his team once again, but Fuzz this time is very low. Lightning Fury is coming out, and another auto attack, and Snarfungus will be able to get the first blood of this game, getting that little bit of a lead for themselves. And with Fuzz dead, they go right onto that siege camp. And it does not seem like the side of Inting for Globes will try to contest. That's a pretty big win going over for the side of Rodney's imaginary friends. What started with Snarfungus allegedly being caught ends up with a winning trade for the Rodney's imaginary friends. And now they're going to get on with this siege camp, get the first cannon tower. Snarfungus gets cleansed at a very perfect time. Was able to cleanse away the toss back as well. C10 this time caught. Does get thrown backwards. C10 just will get picked off. But the siege camp is already taken. There won't be anything extra for them to get. But getting the kill back for Inting for Globes is always good. The XP lead does shrink a little bit, as we see a little bit of trading going back and forth on the top side. Concept low on mana. So that'll be a little bit of an issue for them. And will, in fact, hearth back to refuel. Both sides just kind of take a break from PvP. You know what? We're tired. Let's just get set up for the immortal spawning in 5 seconds, as both sides do take their bruiser camps. Basically at the same time, so nothing too drastic will happen here. And you know, spectacular map movements trying to outplay in the macro, as the racing does begin. And Dr. Intro gets caught by Fuzz, rooted, and trying to run away on the Rhaegar. Is very fast in the wolf form. And Juan Pablo gets a little bit caught, is able to blink away, but Dr. Intro is getting jumped on by Storm Bannon. Still being jumped. Juan Pablo also very low, and Concept is able to jump on top of it with the Urel to get that final kill. C10 trying to get the damage onto Fuzz. But one advantage they do have right now is they are still winning the race. Very slightly. But Fuzz is not liking that, as he goes in and is able to get Snarfungus. And with that, they will bring it over to halftime. Juan Pablo is trying to DPS as much as they can, as the halftime does come in. Still very close, still anyone's game. Both sides are at level 6, no talent advantages coming in. Not a huge XP lead either for either side. As they do begin the second part of the race, Asmochad is just trying to keep Fuzz away. Concept also coming in, trying to be a pain, slowing down their race as much as possible. Juan Pablo is taking some DPS as C10 jumps onto Fuzz with Dr. Incho. They are trying to race towards this Diablo, and Diablo's kind of separated from the rest of the lineup. Very low to 100 HP, 50 HP, is able to get the potion just in time. And Fuzz decides, you know what, 100 HP is plenty. But during all that, they are able to get the kill, but the Immortal does get finished off by the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Concept jumps in and will be able to catch on to Snarfungus as well. So that will be another pick for them. And Asmochad actually very low. I was not expecting that. Dr. Intro is there to keep Asmochad alive, so there will be no issues there. Sparklark is trying to shove out the bot side, get a little bit of harass onto that fort. But first Immortal and a 5v3 on the map. Not going to be able to accomplish too much. Gets one of the cannon towers down and won't even be able to finish off the second charge. But they are going to be using the pressure gained from that Immortal to just brute force the bot lane for it. So after all said and done, they do have the map advantage over on the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. As the fighting continues, Fuzz trying to pull people back into the team, but nope, just trying to bait me, make sure that I cannot finish my thoughts. But ultimately, there is a pretty sizable XP lead building over for the side of Inting for Globes, as they do have almost a full level, and likely will have the full level once they complete this siege camp. Trying to be traded for on the top side with Asmochad, but Concept decides not to contest it, so that lead is negated as well. But the heroic talents will be up first for the side of Inting for Globes. So the real question here is, will Rodney's Imaginary Friends be able to get their level 10 before the Immortal spawn? If both sides are able to have their level 10 once the objectives are up, it's not a big deal that they're behind about a level. It won't end up impacting anything. They may try to brute force something, but their bot side is very well shoved out, and they can just bring numbers over to the top side. But with the Immortal spawning in 30 seconds, I think it'll be very difficult to get level 10 in time. Bruiser camps should be spawning soon for both sides. Spawning at the same time as the Immortals, actually. And I'm wondering if that's going to be a good moment for Inting for Globes to kind of invade and start pressuring. They should be able to get level 10 before halftime on the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends, especially with them also getting the passive XP for having that fort killed. But they're going to choose not to contest for the Bruiser Camp. Neither side's going for the Bruiser Camp at all, actually. And they're just going to go race right now, get it to halftime, and play onwards from there. C10 is kind of just shoving in bot side. They do have their heroic talents now, and that's the advantage they were able to get with this XP lead. They will have the level... They will have the halftime race condition for themselves. As Fuzz jumps in onto C10, but C10 does get bailed out. And we do see the massive knockup coming out from the side. Flame Breath coming through from Fuzz. Fuzz trying to deal as much DPS as possible. Lightning Ball jumping into the middle of all of them, but not able to mount for too much. Concept in the middle of everyone. Not a lot of mana left, but a lot of movement speed, a lot of HP. As Brandon is coming in, trying to get that extra DPS onto the Immortal. And I gotta check this ultimate name, Shockwave from Hogger. The Sparklark tries to pull in Brandon, isn't able to, as we do see a lot of stuns coming out of Asmochad. Asmochad trying to survive, is not able to, and they will also lose their Immortal as Juan Pablo is able to kill it from the backline. So very nice set of plays coming out from Inting for Globes. And this is going to be a very healthy Immortal dropping in to the bot side. All the orbs and the magic missiles coming out, trying to get as much damage as possible onto the wall. Kind of utilize the extra DPS they can get from the Immortal. They're able to kill off the shields very quickly. That'll get the Immortal to go into melee form, and that is a little bit easier to deal with. Still not a lot of health or damage coming out from the Immortal, as it is only 9 minutes in. It is still only the second Immortal. As Fuzz comes in for the dive, isn't able to really get anything out of it. but is also able to just safely pressure them away as the sleep comes out from Sakatoro. And with that, Sparklark on the wrong side of the map is gonna go down. And Concept tries to run into it when the Ancestral Healing will come out to keep Dr. Incho alive, but Dr. Incho no mana left. Juan Pablo does get a few more casts out, but at the end of the day, they will get 1 kill and the entire bot lane fort, as well as 1 extra cannon tower. And with that, they are back to a full level lead. Map state is even, and they will also just go ahead and take the bot side siege camp. We do see the Bruiser camp being started off by the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. They are currently a talent down, but I think this time around, the Immortal fight should be okay for them, as they will have even talents going into it. Siege camp is being taken top by Concept. Once again, every time I look at Concept, seems to be out of mana. I don't know too much about ERL, but it does seem to be a consistent issue for everyone. As you do see the globes coming in, getting some harass onto Sparklark. Not going to care too much about it. Really targeting the mana bar of Dr. Incho more than anything else. They're trying to push with the siege camp, but Sparklark on the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends, they're just going to walk up and clear out the siege camp. No real damage done by it. And the bot side Bruiser camp is being cleared out by Concept. Gonna take a little bit of time to do that. And in fact, they're going to be able to grab their Bruiser camp here. But it doesn't seem like Sparklark wants to let them. Sparklark walking in. Cursed Arrow does miss. And with the Cursed Arrow missing, they do decide to back out, as the Bruiser camp gets collected by Inting for Globes. But Rodney's Imaginary Friends, they're already fully positioned, but decide against attacking. And they're going to try to defend their Immortal instead. Juan Pablo is able to get some spells going through. As we can see, tosses the orb, tosses the magic missile. And Fuzz does go in. They are able to cancel it in time. Cleanse prevents the pullback. And Sparklark is throwing in. They did get the Cursed Arrow, but that was onto the shield. Concept in the middle of the team. And Sparklark gonna be killed. Ancestral Healing does not come out in time. And that's 2 down. Both the frontliners are now dead for the side of Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Ball Lightning is crashing through, but don't think it'll be enough damage. Brandon does come in with the ultimate to kill Snarfungus as well. And that's so far a 3-for-0, but now C10's getting caught out as well. And 4-for-0 Fuzz coming in with the extra charge to get 1 final kill. Dr. Incho trying to run away and say, you know what? One of us has to live and tell our story. Dr. Incho has decided to be that person. Either way, 4-for-0 now a 2-level lead, and the level 16 talents are now going to be coming out shortly for Inting for Globes, and that's going to be very difficult to play into. Full health, full shield Immortal. Going to be going over to the top side for Inting for Globes, and I'm wondering how much they're going to be able to get out of this. They're up a talent, full HP Immortal, and this is now the 3rd Immortal, so the damage will be pretty real, pretty solid. So I'm wondering how far they're going to push with it. I think this fort, we can already write it off. The real question is how much will they be able to get onto the second part. As Fuzz does pull in Sparklark, forced to use the Unstoppable there. Which is the Blessed... No, not Blessed Hammer. I don't even know what it's called. Iron Skin, there we go, that's the name. As the Immortal is coming into the wall right now. Blows up the topside wall. Still has full ranged armor, and the wall is gone. We do see the sleep coming out, the stay a while and listen, but the ball lightning is dealing a lot of damage. But Snarfungus gets slammed on the backside by Juan Pablo's, and the poke coming out from Li Ming is absolutely shredding them. Dr. Incho gets caught. A very good shockwave coming out to prevent that. And in fact, Fuzz trying to survive, but the keep is too strong. Fuzz will die for this. And Snarfungus is currently rooted, but will be okay. And C10 going a little bit deep, potentially. Sparklark coming in, trying to tank a little bit. And will be okay on the side of C10. Asmochat takes a huge hit from Juan Pablo. But at the end of the day, it was a 1-for-0. Diablo did have to use all of the stacks to be revived after that death. But getting the keep for just one death, you will take that any day of the week, as the siege camp is finished off on the top side. Fuzz was considering trying to delay this camp, but won't be able to, as they simply do not have the numbers there that are needed. Asmochad going to start on the Bruiser camp. And we do see Concept just trying to get as big of a push as possible over in the top side. Concept sees that no one's on the map, decides to play it a little bit safe. Does not know where the members of Rodney's imaginary friends are, but decides to go away. Now Juan Pablo is going to try and clear out, as we do see Sparklark not really caught, but they were right next to Fuzz and Concept. Concept is waiting in the brush. Concept sees everything. But so does Sparklark over in the backside, as we do see the shield toss coming in. Fuzz losing a lot of health from the cursed arrow. Sparklark still in the middle, and the Flame Breath starts coming out. The Unstoppable throws out, but does not complete anything. And the Rhaegar goes down on the backside, and without the healer, there's really not a lot that they're going to be able to do. Hog Wild in the middle of everyone, but will only be able to use that to spin to win a little bit. Is actually able to get away, as we do see C10 does get taken out off screen, and Asmochad will follow. Immortals are spawning in 4 seconds, but they have the wave top. They have a 5-on-1 versus just Sparklark, and they're gonna go for the end here. We'll see if Sparklark is able to defend this on their own, but it's gonna be a little bit of a tall ask. A good anti-heal. Juan Pablo does take a decent chunk of damage. Does have the tap. Might be enough. 5 seconds until the Rhaegar is out. 3 until Snarfungus is out. But unfortunately, they will not be able to defend in time, and that will be the game 2 going over to the side of inting for globes. And we're going to a game number 3. So we do see map number 2 going over to the side of inting for globes. That was a very interesting fight to see once again. Let's go back to the post game here. A lot of soak done by Asmochad, as we can see, 12,000 XP gained, and they were able to keep even talents for most of the game. But once they started losing a few fights, once one person kind of got picked off, it is very difficult to kill off Yrel and Diablo, 2 very solid frontliners. And whenever they did try to dive onto the backside, as you typically want to with Cassia, Greymane, Hogger, the stay a while and listen from Psychotora was able to prevent any kind of play that they wanted to do. And Diablo was unstoppable during all of that. And I've been calling it Flame Breath. Apparently it's lightning, now we know. But that was game number 2, and we're going to go to another break, and when we come back, we'll be going into game number 3. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back as we get into the third draft of today's game. And in fact, I do have the sides currently wrong. There we go. All is fixed. All is well. As we do have Rodney's Imaginary Friends does going into game number 3. Sorry, let me just reset here. Yeah, game number 3 is starting between Rodney's Imaginary Friends and ending for Globes. We are going to be onto Towers of Doom. Always a fun map. And one where we do see a lot of niche picks sometimes coming out. You can get a lot of value from heroes such as the Vikings and Sergeant Hammer. If you have a perfect team comp for it for Towers of Doom, you are able to get a lot of value out of those characters. Also a very large map. There does open up a tunnel later on into the game if you give it the opportunity. But until then, globals are very strong. Having something again like the Dahaka, like the Falstad, the Brightwings, will bring a lot of value. Anyway, talking about the bans, we do see the Maiev and the Joanna. And now the Diablo. We will not be seeing a Diablo in game number 3, so that'll be a lot more interesting, seeing at least one new tank coming out this game, as the Joanna and the Diablo are both banned. So far, nothing super shocking coming out from any of the bans, just strong tanks, Diablo, Joanna. Maiev, just overall a very strong character. And the Blaze, once again, going to be taken out by the side of ending for Gloves. I guess I just don't want to deal with it any longer. And we do see the red team is going to be picking with the first pick. And Vala is available. We do know it's something Snarfungus does enjoy playing. But the Lucio for Dr. Insho, I mentioned it at the start of today. Very fantastic games coming out from Dr. Insho and Lucio last night against Fino and Nino. So I'm very excited to be able to see Dr. Insho playing Lucio again. As speaking of new tanks, Muradin will be the pick for Fuzz. A very strong tank, lots of HP, lots of damage coming out from Fuzz, and the Hogger picked for Concept. And it's very convenient that they're lined up the way they are right now, because they are just kind of picking for themselves. It's the way I like to see it myself. We do have the next 2 picks coming out for Snarfungus and Sparklark. I do expect to see a DPS and maybe a tank here. Dahaka actually coming out. Like I said, Dahaka very strong on this map. And the Vala for Snarfungus. Dahaka is a very, very solid offlane hero. Able to have very good clear, very fast wave clear speeds. And at the same time does have those brush maneuvers. To be able to join the team or to be able to sneak away an altar. Whenever the need arises. Very hard to keep up with the wave pressure that a Dahaka will be able to throw out. So I think that's a very solid pick. Hawker will be able to keep up with the wave clear, but in terms of the global pressure, it will be difficult. But Hawker does have the advantage, and for those who know, they know. Killing that top siege camp, those sappers, you can literally just start your hog wild and just turn off your brain until they are dead. You will not take any damage whatsoever. Uther ban coming out from Inting for Globes, and the Sylvanas ban coming out from Rodney's Imaginary Friends. Now, the Sylvanas ban, pretty standard, kind of expected, just overall solid pick, lots of use cases. You can bring it out from the Sylvanas, and a ton of damage, and even the crowd control from the mind control. But the Uther ban kind of surprised me. I'm wondering if they're planning on doing a very short range composition, as Uther is good into that. I would see the Phoenix and the Brightwing coming out. Now, Phoenix is a very, very interesting pick. Lots of range from Phoenix. And I am noticing that Dahaka, Vala, I mean, Lucio's the healer, doesn't really matter there, but they're very short range. The Tongue Lash won't be able to get there in time, as I believe that's what the ability's called. I will double check as we get into game. And Snarfungus on the Vala is also very short ranged. And it does seem like they're going for the pick comp, with Falstad and Varian being their next picks. Varian is one of those tanks, not going to be able to do anything until level 4. Does not have a lot of stats, does not have strong abilities. But once that level 4 is hit, Varian is the king of pick compositions. And Genji picked on the side of Inting for Gloves. This is a very interesting team composition coming out from Rodney's Imaginary Friends, and I am very excited to see how this game is going to go. Looking at the drafts overall, I think I would still give the lead to Rodney's Imaginary Friends. I think their composition is easier to pull off. It's easier to get a lot of damage done. And it's a lot simpler to execute. That's something I will be mentioning a lot on this cast today and in the future. But ease of execution is very important. I do think it's a lot harder to pull off Genji and Phoenix as your two DPSs. Especially once you start going into the mid-game team fights. Phoenix will have some ways out. Brightwing does have a cleanse. Sorry, one moment as we switch into the proper overlay. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how this will go. I do think Varian is very strong. I believe Genji is able to block the taunt. Sorry if I'm mistaken. I do not know a lot about some of these interactions. But I am very excited to see how this goes. And Vala is one of those characters that is pretty strong into the Genji, as both sides are just grouping towards mid lane. A couple talents still not taken. And I'm very curious to see which talents do end up coming out from Falstad and Vala. We do have the Hammerang quest coming in for C10. The Hungering Arrow quest coming in from Snarfungus. So they're going all in on this one-shot execute thing with the Varian. They do get pushed in, so they do have second move as they leave the mid lane. Brandon is waiting for them. Probably just trying to stall and demount. Same with Psychotora. Fuzz also getting set up as Juan Pablo just slowly shoves the lane out on their own. Do see C10 taking a lot of damage from Brandon. Gonna have to tap here. But is alone in the mid lane right now. May have to give up some of this pressure. Wait for the creeps to go back into them. And they're just kind of running back and forth between the mid lane and the bot lane as the Sapper camp is up. Juan Pablo and Psychotora start it immediately. Well, Brandon is kind of scouting this other camp to see if they can prevent it. But it does seem like they're not going to continue with this pressure. We're going to see both sides take their Sapper camp, though we do see Concept walking in, and it does look like they're going to try and contest it. They are able to finish it off with Rodney's Imaginary Friends as the fight does break down. Fuzz taking a little bit of damage, and they will be able to clear out two of these Sappers immediately, which is an advantage in of its own right. But at the end of the day, they're not able to steal the camp, they're not able to get first blood. So as Rodney's Imaginary Friends, and like I mentioned at the start, them not having level 4 means they're going to be quite weak to start. Once they hit level 4, once Sparklar gets the taunt available, then he becomes a true hero. The true tank Varian fantasy as we all have But until then, they're just going to have to wait it out. They are at half a level, but they do have this pretty large wave crashing into them on the bot side. That should get them to level 4. They do see them get it, and Sparklark, boom, gets the taunt, instantly doubles HP. Flight comes out towards mid lane for C10. Catch and get for the Asmochad. Oh yeah, and I was going to check what it's called. Drag, that's right. Is able to drag Concept back into the brush, get a lot of damage on a Concept. As we do see a fight breaking out, Fuzz almost dies in the mid lane. Nothing ends up coming from it. And you see the 3 altars spawning in right now. They are running down, and it looks like the side of Rodney's imaginary friends, they're going to try to contest for this bottom shrine. As we see a play coming out towards Concept, Hog Wild is available, so we'll be able to just spin away, but does lose half of his health in the process. Dr. Incho is scouting up, takes a little bit of harass from Juan Pablo. I don't think Dr. Incho cares too much. As long as Dr. Incho is playing on the back line, should be able to heal up. As we see the top 2 shrines altars do get traded. And Sparklark taking a lot of damage. Polymorph coming in, and one more hit, and the Brightwing gets the last hit. And that's first blood going over to the side of Inning for Globe. Psychotora is able to catch that. They did have the 3v4, which gave them a lot of advantage. C10 clearing out top, Asmochad clearing out bottom. So that'll be 2 altars to 1 going over for Inting for Globes, as they do come across on a very slight lead. The XP lead honestly isn't too big, as we do see Fuzz and Brandon all coming out top. They jump onto Asmochad, who goes into stasis, runs through the bush. Does have a lot of HP. I don't think there's going to be any kill pressure here. And the Sapper Camp is being taken by Dr. Intro and Snarfungus on the spot side. But they will trade it for this top side objective. Brandon jumping over the wall, trying to stay out of the range of the drag. But they are contesting onto the spot side, and they do get the taunt just before Juan Pablo is able to jump. Phase Shift trying to come out in time, but a little bit too slow, and that's the kill coming back to them, as well as the Sapper Camp being stolen. Asmochad is starting to get jumped on a little bit here. Stormhammer does jump in, and Asmochad, not enough HP, does get taken down. But Psychotor just phase shift top, and all of the Sapper Camps were able to hit over in the bot side. And they're going to be able to clear out this wall entirely. I believe in the creeps. There it goes. So 2-1 in terms of kills. Half a level up right now for Inting for Golems. But once again, massive wave mid. Nothing too serious. No lead is too great quite yet. They're not going to have level 10s as the altar spawns anyway, as they do in fact manage to get the cannon tower. And now that that wave's cleared, it is less than half a level now, so overall very close. Snarfungus taking their side, Juan Pablo taking their side, and just going to be an even 1-for-1 trade as Asmochad goes into the bush, burrows to catch the wave that Brandon was setting up for the bot lane. They do get the taunt onto Juan Pablo again. Lots of cleanses, lots of heals, but is it enough? It is not, but you know what was enough? The knockback onto Snarfungus, and C10 gets killed off in the backline in the meanwhile. Snarfungus gets picked off next, and Dr. Intro, trying to run away, is barely able to get enough movement speed to get out of that fight. And I didn't even notice that talent selection, but they do take the Haymaker instead of Avatar onto Fuzz. As they're running in right now and clearing the bot side, they have their heroics, and they were able to utilize them very well in that fight. The level 10's just coming out now. As we do see the taunt coming out to Brandon. No kill pressure there, but decent chunk of harass will get healed up by Psychotora. Or instead decides to just hearth home. Concept running in towards the mid lane right now, but so is Rodney's imaginary friends. Now, if Hogger decides to show themselves, may get picked off, but is aware of the possibility, so decides to just stay away until Fuzz walks down bot side and is able to get the vision onto Rodney's imaginary friends. The Sapper Camp is started, but it does seem like Fuzz is debating jumping in. Nope, will just walk off towards the mid lane, get the waves shoved in there. Both altars are going to be on the bot side right now. Asmochad is starting to walk down. They do get the taunt onto Psychotora. Psychotora very low, but is able to get away. do have the sound barrier coming in. Storm Brandon trying to get one kill, but C10 not going to get the Stormhammer on top. Snarfungus and C10 both going to tap, but C10 does not have their tap up, so only Snarfungus will. And just like that, they were able to get both of these altars. That's going to be another 8 damage. As Juan Pablo does get taunted, not enough DPS. Snarfungus trying to survive as long as possible, but the Hogger will be able to kill them in the backline. Fuzz jumps in. Stormhammer goes slightly off to the side. And right now, it seems like Inting for Globe's just able to fight better. Brandon on the Genji is able to be such a pain. And just as they get him to half HP, phase shift comes out, and boom, they're completely fine. And they're going to be able to get this bot side fort as well. Fuzz even trying to zone them out further. It's 32-20 now in terms of the HPs of their cores. But with the 5th fort down, especially it being the bot lane fort, it's going to be hard for Rodney's imaginary friends to be able to get the map pressure back. They are just kind of trying to bully it right now, and it's actually a little bit surprising for me that Inting for Globes isn't trying harder to keep this fort alive. They are letting them just kind of harass it down. They did get the wall in the mid lane in the meanwhile, and the sapper camp in the bot for Juan Pablo, as they do now show up to defend this fort. Brandon does come in, gets a little bit of damage onto Sparklark. Sparklark mounts up, is looking, but fighting right now would be a little bit difficult as they are a full talent down. Only one altar this time, so if there's any time to give, it would be now. They need 4 altars to win the game, assuming they keep this 5th fort up. And the sappers are running in right now. Brandon gets taunted, but was mid-dash as the taunt came through. The Haymaker throws Snarfungus back into the middle of them. I see the sound barrier coming out, but not a lot of engage coming out from Inting for Globes. They just kind of, they bait out the cooldowns and then they walk away. And that seems to be their MO for this game. Trying to get some push out. The sapper camp is being scouted right now by Brandon. Dashes away. And it does seem like they're gonna try contesting it. Faz gets taunted, but not a lot of damage to follow up on it. Fuzz half HP, but phase shift gonna come in. And it's back to full HP, but they are able to get that sapper camp. And while they themselves aren't going to be able to get a lot out of it, getting that extra little bit of XP, getting those sappers off the map so they themselves don't need to try and deal with it. Brandon in the middle of everyone. Dashes through them. Gets a lot of his health taken out for it. Taunt coming out of Faz, not too big a deal. Juan Pablo's ultimate does get interrupted, but we'll be able to cast that again in just 7 seconds. Asmachad misses the drag. And C10 gets stunned just as they try to gust. Forces it to be a little bit too late. And very solid defensive play coming out from the side of Inting for Globes. Keeping this fort alive is very important. And C10 knows that, just kind of throwing the Hammerangs off cooldown. As we see, the AFK method that I was talking about earlier, Concept is just going to clear out the sapper camp. Though we do see Asmochat and Snarfungus walking up top right now. And Brandon does get kind of caught. Is not able to get the taunt by Sparklark. Might have been able to get the kill had that taunt landed. Concept kind of in the middle of everyone. Already used Hog Wild, but there is no follow-up for it. Once again, it is 5 HP right now for every altar taken. And Juan Pablo's not going to be contested on their altar. As we do see a pick going on to the Hogger. Haymaker throws Dr. Incho into their camps, but not quite enough to kill them. But Snarfungus does get picked off in the back when Sparklark getting jumped on by Brandon. Brandon slowly DPSing, is able to get a second kill for themselves. C10 coming in to try and fight, but Psychotora is able to keep them alive. And this might be the end of the game here, actually, because Juan Pablo clears this, and Fuzz will be able to end the game right there. As we see the final hits coming out into the core. Very short game 3, but Inting for Globes will win the series 2-1 today. So that's game 3 over, and that will also be my cast over for today. But I do want to give a shout out to Rodney's imaginary friends. This was the number one team that they were up against, and Inting for Globes has had 7 dominations this season. Granted, 2 of those dominations were against a team that forfeited out of the tournament, so everyone got those points. But either way, that's 5 dominations that they've gotten on enemy teams. And Rodney's imaginary friends did not let themselves get dominated. They made sure they won that one map. And map number 2 was also a decently close fight. The Battlefields of Eternity was fought very well for them. But at the end of the day, no matter how well they fought, the winner was and still is Inting for Globes. And they're going to be able to retain their first place and just keep getting those points up for themselves. But anyway, that is it for me. I will not be casting any games tomorrow. I may or may not pick something up for Wednesday, but Thursday, 100% you'll be able to see me. So if you want to see any more casts, be sure to follow the channel. And I look forward to casting more of your games in the future. And I will see you when I see you. And I'll try to send you over to someone else. I believe Sound may still be casting. I'm not sure if their games are done, but I'll raid on over to someone else in the HOTS community as soon as I can. Thank you for watching and have a good night.